In this video, we're going to have a look at creating a swinging rope that the player can jump onto and jump off. While they're holding onto it, they'll swing with it. And when they jump again, they will be able to leave the rope. We're not going to program anything too complex here. It's going to be fairly simple, but we are going to add a few extra bits to our player code. I do have a bit of a cold, so excuse any coughs there. So let's go ahead. This is what it looks like. Oops. So my player probably jumps too high at the moment anyway. He's on the rope, and then he can jump off the rope. And you'll notice that he doesn't jump as high when he leaves the rope. Now, he can grab on anywhere, but we could make changes to that. So let's go ahead, and first we're going to create that rope. So the rope looks like this. I'm not going to go through this because it was kind of a lot of trial and error, testing different things and figuring out the best way to do it. So the rope looks like this here. The way that I did it was, probably could have made each of these their own scene and then instance it in, but we'll just look at one of these, and then I duplicated it and moved them down into position. So I've got the first node, which I called rope swing. Then I have a sprite called chain, which was just a small little ball thing that I found. And then an area 2D associated with that. And this has a group, except it's not deadly. I've called this group rope, which we're going to use later. Now for this one, these ones along the top, I actually don't want the player to be able to grab onto those. So I'm just going to delete that and this one. And so I just duplicated them after that. So we'll delete all of these things, and then they can only kind of hold on to this area down the bottom. Now the animation player is very simple and should be familiar to you. I've got something called swinging rope here, and if you did the trap, the swinging trap, it is the same principle. I go from like that. Now don't worry that those aren't moving with it. They do update. They kind of update a little bit out of sync. I'm not sure why they're like that on here, because they're actually not like that in the game at all. But they do update. It may be because I'm recording that it's not doing this, because it was working fine before. It looked like they were a bit out of sync, but it works fine in game. So what's going to happen when the player comes in contact with one of these area nodes, it's going to kind of glue them to that area node, disable the movement, and then update their position to that area node. However, when we jump, we have to put in some code to make sure that they don't immediately enter another area node and grab onto that rope. So for that, we're going to have a timer that disables them from grabbing the rope for about half a second. And so that means that they could easily jump between ropes while not interacting with different parts of this rope. So to do that, I had to go to the player. And on the player, I've added these nodes. These nodes are for the player to grab onto rope. So I've got another area called grab zone. That has a collision shape, of course. That's this small one here. And I've also got a rope timer. Now the rope timer, I've set it to 1 shot and 0.5. Although you may want to play with that if you feel like you can still jump onto the rope. You've got a really long rope, then you may want to play with that. But 0.5 seemed to work fine for me. Now the grab zone, you can create a signal for that, and the signal was area entered. So we'll have a look at that later, but you want to add that signal, you can add that empty bit of code. So this is all of this part done, and we've got the rope swing done, so that will be fine. I didn't really go over the values here for that, but I'm modifying this, of course, not any of these chains. I'm just modifying that, rotating it. I think I went 62.9, and then the second keyframe here was, whoops, I'm not sure what I've clicked on, whoops, 62.5, and then negative 62.5. So it starts at negative 62.9, and then 62.5 and negative 62.5. I did use this editor, so it was faster on the downswing than it should have been. So see, that looks normal there now. So you see those nodes are kind of lagging a little bit behind, but it doesn't matter, not in here. So that's looking good. All right, back to the player. So if I jump into the player and go into the code, we're going to look at this from the top. So there's a few things that I had to add. I needed a new state, okay? Because when the player's jumping from the rope, we don't want him jumping, or her jumping, as high as they can normally jump. Okay, so I've added a new state here called rope jump. This bit of code was some variables that I needed. So rope grabbed, it starts off as false. Rope part, that's going to refer to the part that we're hanging onto in the game. And a variable called can grab. So that it's going to be set to false when we can't grab the rope for a time being. And then the time is going to set it back to true. So these three variables I added. Down here, my mouse is a bit janky. I have put in the state handler for the rope jump. So you don't need to put these comments. They're just there for me to remind me, because the code was kind of all over the place here. It's not bad code. It's just I had to add bits in different parts. So state.ropejump velocity.y equals jump speed divided by 2. So similar to this, except we're going to divide it by 2. There are multiple ways that you could actually do this. This was a simple way I thought that was easy to understand. So that's going to, when it handles this state, if we're in the rope jump state, it's only going to do a small jump instead of a big jump. And then this is the main chunk of it here. So this bit of code right here, and what it does is we declare a new local variable called rope release. It equals false. Then we're going to check if the rope is grabbed. Actually, let's go all the way down the bottom first, and this bit will make more sense. So there's two things here. Remember we said the signal on grab zone area entered, that's this bit of code. You can also add a signal from your timer, the timeout one. So when the timer times out, there's just one bit in there, which is can grab equals true. But this one here is a little bit different. So if the area that the player has entered, or the grab zone has entered, is in group rope, and can grab is true, then we set rope grab to true. We keep track of the rope part that just got passed to us, and we set can grab to false. So we can't grab another thing at the moment. And then what we do is we come back up here. So if rope grabbed, and it will be set to true if we've just entered that area, we set the global position of the player to equal the rope part dot global position. So we're just moving them along with the rope part. If the import dot is action just pressed jump, so if we just press jump, we're going to set rope grab to false. We'll set rope part to null. We'll start the timer, and we set this bit here that says rope release equals true, and that'll come in handy in a sec. Else, so in this case, if rope is grabbed, we're not pushing jump, it just returns. It doesn't do any of the other stuff down here, like get input, apply gravity, whatever. It doesn't do any of that, it just leaves it. Because if we were to go ahead and do this, it means you could move off the rope, and that would kind of defeat the purpose of the rope. So we do this right at the start here. We can't put this in its own function, because if we did return, it would just return from that. Suppose we could do a return value from the function, but this is easy enough to understand. Now down here we add another little bit of code. It's actually an edited code, so don't add this in. What originally you would have had here would be if input.isAction just press jump and is on floor, player state equals state jump. But we're going to say if input.isAction just press jump and now I've put this in brackets because I can never remember what the order of operations is for logic. I think it's just left to right. So we want to say, is one of these true? Is on floor true or rope release? And if either of those are true, we're going to go into this bit of code here. So it's going to set the player state to state.start jump. But if rope release, so this is just saying if rope release equals true, it's the same thing as saying that. Player state equals state.rope jump, which will overwrite that bit of code. I suppose we could say if rope release, player state equals state.rope jump, else player state equals state.jump. Let's do that. It's probably better practice. Else that. Okay, so then we're just not setting a variable and immediately replacing it. So then what we've got here is this here will update the state, and then when we handle the state, it'll do the jump. And I'm trying to see if there's any other code that I edited. No, that was it. So it wasn't a huge change. Just make sure that your signals are linked up to the right things, and that if it's not working, post a comment down below, but it should work. And so what I can do is I can go into my world, into 2D. I can place the rope there. Notice that I've just moved the player over here so I can kind of see what he's doing. And hit play. And I can go jump on that. And notice that I can't, if I jump right up high, see I can jump through that bit now. Now I could have a few of these ropes together. So let's go ahead, rope swing, Control D. Ooh, that's not good. Not sure what that's all about. I'll put this here, and then I'll go ahead and test it again. And so I should be able to jump between these two ropes. Oh, I didn't. Okay, so maybe my timing was actually too long. I might have to go 0.3 and play with this here. Oh, I've hit the wrong scene. Oh, okay. I'll just try it a little bit differently here. I'm not going to rewrite the code because I know that it will work. I just got to get that value correct. See, if I jump from there, I'm just really bad at the game. I swear my code works. Okay. So I can go from there. See, I did it then. Let's go ahead and just try and turn that timer down. This timer here. Let's set it to 0.1 and see what happens. And there may be something that I haven't noticed. Yeah, so there we go. So I can jump between them now. 0.1 is actually probably enough. I thought that would actually be too slow, but now I can jump between the two without a problem. And you could set up a whole string of them over some water, over some spikes. Loads of cool things you can do. You might be able to come up with some other stuff like this here. Have a swingy, have a pen, like a spiky ball on the end that you can't touch the spiky ball, but you can grab onto the chains above it. You could have a platform that the player could stand on that swings on these chains as well. It just goes backwards and forwards. Loads of cool things you could do. Be creative with it. If you do come up with any good ideas, just post it down below and let me know. If there's something else you're really desperate to know how to do, post it in the comments below and I'll see if I can do that. The next few videos will be on sound and a word on level design. Notice how if I hit Z, my thing is covering that up there. So I'd probably want to kind of keep that area clear. Or design or put the HUD somewhere else, maybe in a little box down the bottom here. There's lots of things that we could do with that in the future. But for now, we've got quite a few unique different traps and ways to identify them. I also want to do a double jump as well. So I'll sort that out in the next few videos, but the next one is going to be focused on adding some sound and music in there.